Welcome back, and prepare yourself for a disturbing tale as we venture down the rabbit hole. Caleb wasn't sure why he ever found the dark web so intriguing. He supposed it was the allure of the unknown, the thrill of the forbidden. When you're 17, boredom can drive you to do stupid things, and Caleb's particular brand of stupidity had been exploring the shadiest corners of the internet with his friends. They would laugh at the absurdity of it all. Ads for illegal weapons, drugs, even hitmen. But deep down, Caleb always knew there was a darker side to it. A line that none of them dared to cross. As time went on, Caleb grew bored with it. The shock value wore off, and the adrenaline rush didn't hit quite as hard. His friends lost interest too, moving on to other teenage distractions. But one night, when Caleb couldn't sleep, he found himself aimlessly scrolling again. Curiosity pulling him back in, alone in his room, with nothing but the dim glow of his laptop screen to keep him company. Caleb felt the familiar pull of the chat rooms. He'd been in dozens of them before, most filled with the usual mix of trolls and creeps. It was all part of the fun, pretending to be someone else, messing with people who were likely doing the same. It was just a game to Caleb, a twisted way to kill time. But that night, things were different. After about an hour of browsing, Caleb stumbled into a new chat room. It was nearly empty. Just a few users lurking, none of them saying much. Boredom gnawed at him, so he decided to strike up a conversation with the only other person who seemed active, a user named Living the Dream 408. The username was cheesy, almost laughably so, but something about it piqued Caleb's interest. "Hey," Caleb typed, adopting his usual casual tone. "What's up?" To his surprise, the response came almost immediately. "Not much, just trying to kill time." The conversation started off innocently enough, the kind of small talk that Caleb had grown used to in these chat rooms. But as they chatted, Caleb got the sense that the person on the other end was different. Living the Dream 408, who introduced himself as Sisco, claimed to be 16. They talked about school, hobbies, the usual stuff. But there was something about the way Sisco wrote that made Caleb believe he was actually a kid, not some creep pretending to be one. As the minutes ticked by, the conversation took a strange turn. Sisco started dropping hints about his home life. Little things at first, like how his mother was always nagging at him, or how he never really had friends at school. Caleb found it unsettling, but he brushed it off, assuming Sisco was just looking for sympathy. But then, out of nowhere, Sisco wrote something that made Caleb's stomach twist. "You're the first person I've talked to like this in a long time. I don't really get out much. I guess I'm just lonely." Caleb stared at the screen, unsure of how to respond. He wasn't used to this kind of honesty in these chat rooms. It felt so real, too heavy. He hesitated, and before he could type a reply, another message popped up. "Sorry if that came across needy," Sisco wrote. "You just seem like a cool dude. Maybe I'll catch you on here another time. Peace." Caleb felt a pang of guilt as he read the message. He hadn't meant to make Sisco feel bad, but the whole situation was just too weird for him. He quickly typed a goodbye and logged off, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over him. The next day, Caleb went about his normal routine. School, hanging out with friends, the usual. But that night, when he sat down at his laptop, he couldn't stop thinking about Sisco. He wasn't sure why, but something about their conversation had stuck with him. Maybe it was the loneliness in Sisco's words, and the way he seemed so desperate for a friend. Against his better judgment, Caleb logged back into the chat room. He wasn't even sure if Sisco would be there, but a part of him hoped he would be. Sure enough, after a few minutes of browsing, Caleb found him. They picked up their conversation where they had left off, and for a while, it was almost normal, just two teenagers talking about life. But then Sisco started to open up again, this time more intensely. He told Caleb about his plans to become a dentist, how he studied all day and worked all night to support his disabled mother. His father was dead, and his older brother had moved away, leaving Sisco to shoulder the burden alone. Caleb felt a growing sense of unease as he read Sisco's messages. This wasn't what he had signed up for. The chat rooms were supposed to be fun, an escape from reality, not a place to get dragged into someone else's misery. When Sisco started to apologize for oversharing, practically begging Caleb to stay and talk with him, Caleb felt a cold shiver run down his spine. It was all too much. He made an excuse and logged off, hoping that would be the end of it. For the next few weeks, Living the Dream 408 didn't show up in any of the chat rooms Caleb visited. He was relieved, but a small part of him was still concerned. What if Sisco was telling the truth? What if he really was just a lonely kid who needed help? The thought worried Caleb, but he pushed it aside, telling himself it wasn't his problem. Then, one night, out of the blue, Caleb received an invitation to a chat from Living the Dream 408. The topic read, "I'm sorry." Caleb's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the screen. He knew he shouldn't accept the invite, but curiosity got the better of him. He clicked it. The chat opened with a single message from Sisco. "I really appreciate you being there for me." Before Caleb could respond, a link appeared in the chat. It was to a live stream. Every instinct in Caleb's body screamed at him not to click it, but his hand moved on its own, his curiosity overriding his better judgment. The live stream opened, and Caleb's screen filled with the grainy image of a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the frame stood Sisco, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes hollow. He was standing on a stool, a noose hanging from the ceiling above him. Caleb's breath caught in his throat as he watched, frozen in horror. Sisco looked directly into the camera, his expression one of utter defeat. For a moment, it seemed like time had stopped. Then, without a word, Sisco stepped off the stool. Caleb watched in stunned silence as Sisco's body jerked violently, the rope cutting off his breath. His feet dangled a few inches off the floor, swaying back and forth as the life drained from his eyes. It was over in seconds, but it felt like an eternity to Caleb. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. All he could do was stare at the screen, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Slowly, shakily, Caleb reached out and closed his laptop. Caleb never went back to the chat rooms after that. He couldn't. The image of Sisco's lifeless body haunted him, a constant reminder of the night he had crossed a line he could never uncross. His biggest regret was that maybe, just maybe, he could have saved him. As we exit the tangled depths of the rabbit hole, remember, chat rooms are like dark corners of the mind, where obsessions fester and grow. Each conversation pulls you deeper, each message a thread in a web that tightens around your sanity. Don't forget to subscribe and join us again as we dive deeper into the mysteries that skirt the edges of reality. Because next time, the horror might just find its way from the rabbit hole and into your home. Thanks for watching.